Good evening, everybody. Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is my live broadcast for this evening, Saturday evening, and it is August the 14th. I don't know why I tried to date back to April, but all A months, I guess, look alike to me. But anyway, it is August the 14th, and a little bit late getting started, but happy to be on here tonight. And I've decided to mix up my live and do it a little bit differently tonight and henceforth. I am going to be focusing on topics as I approach these lives to try to mix it up a little bit, have a little bit more fun with it, and just kind of just in general spice it up a little bit. So I am going to also be doing the productivity sprints that I typically do. So that should be a lot of fun as well. So definitely looking forward to that. And one of the things, actually, the major project that I'm going to be working on here, and I got to refer to my other computer over here next to me. For those of you who have been following me very closely on the channel, the AuthorTube side of my channel, you know that I have been working on book one in a 5-book series, kind of a dystopian series, a little bit different out of the line of what I normally would write, but I thought it would be fun to try something a little bit different. So I have definitely embraced that opportunity. So book one in a 5-book series, my goal was to have 2 books in the series written by the end of the year, and that is still a distinct possibility. It's going to take a little bit of work. Actually, book 2 of the 5-book series, I'm going to at least start during NaNoWriMo in November. So I may take a little bit of a break between book 1 and book 2. I have another project, kind of a satirical look at being a minority in a workplace, a predominantly white workplace. So I got hit by inspiration for that story, and I'm actually looking forward to doing that one. Something that's a little bit different off the beaten path of what I normally do. Thought it'd be kind of fun, so I'm excited to work on that one. I think it'll be more than a little bit interesting to jump into that one, something different. It was inspired by some books that I've been reading recently and some books that I've read in the past. And so it just seemed to be a natural fit to work on that particular story. And so I'm excited about that. But back to book 1 in the series. I have made a lot of progress since the end of Camp NaNoWriMo, which was last month in July. This was the project that I primarily focused on. And I was very successful. I set a 50,000 word goal for July, and I met and exceeded that goal probably by a couple thousand words, maybe something like that. I don't know. But again, it's August the 14th. And since I finished for NaNoWriMo, I've added almost 20,000 words. So I'm up just a little over 70,000 words. And so I'm feeling definitely good about that, about the progress that I'm making with this particular project. So I'm at 70,000 words, and I'm almost at the end of Act 2 in my 3-act format. So I'm actually looking at it right now. And yeah, so I'm making some pretty good progress here. Let me update where I'm at here. Okay, so a few little pieces to go, and I'll be done with Act 2. So I've done a pretty good job of outlining, so I'm in a good spot in terms of outlining, and so the story is really flowing nicely. Again, I'm at a little over 70,000 words, and Act 3 is a little bit of a shorter section of this book. So Act 3, I should probably be able to work through Act 3 pretty quickly to bring it to a pretty satisfying, not only conclusion of book 1, but also to set the stage for book 2 in the series. So that should be a lot of fun. So that's part of what I'm going to do tonight. But if you looked at the thumbnail, you know that the other part of what I'm going to do, oh my gosh, what is this thing doing? My computer's acting a fool right now. Hold on. I got to refresh all these pages. Excuse me, it's kind of memory error here. So I had to refresh that. Okay. So part two, the discussion part of this live is going to be men writing women characters, men writing female characters in novels. And I thought about this topic for a couple of reasons here. Looking at my other screen here, because I've got some articles pulled up that I'm going to go over during the times between the productivity sprints. So, men writing about women characters. And so this came up for a couple of different reasons. One is a lot of people have been talking about this with Riley Sager, for one, among some other authors, some other male authors. And there were some funny articles that I found as I did some research about the ways that sometimes male authors describe female characters. And so I thought, it'd be kind of interesting to go through some of these articles and then some of the descriptions and some of the excerpts that are pulled from some maybe famous books and maybe not so famous books, infamous books, if you will. And then there's another article that has the 5 common mistakes that men make when writing female characters. So some interesting stuff there that I will get into that I think is going to be kind of interesting. So definitely looking forward to getting into that. And I'll be jumping into that here a little bit shortly. So I'm going to go ahead and get started here pretty quick. So let me pull that article up. Let's see if I can increase the size of that. So it'll be a little bit easier for y'all to read. Grab this link too. So hang on a second. So here is the first article we will be covering. So here's the link to the first article I'll be covering. So you guys can follow along if you want to, those of you who are on. So with that, let me go ahead and pull this up right now and take that off of there. So men writing women, 5 mistakes to watch out for. So we're probably all familiar with classic character mistakes authors can make: failing to create any backstory, forgetting realistic character motivations, and falling victim to overall inconsistent characterization. But for male authors writing female characters and vice versa, there's a whole other set of potential problems simply because it's difficult to get full insight into a gender other than your own. No matter how many friends you consult or questions you earnestly Google, you just won't have that inherent lived experience of the gender you're writing about. Many male authors these days are pretty careful about how they write women. That said, there are certain pitfalls that male authors seem to run into time and time again, even some of the best known authors in literature. I'm here to address some of those pitfalls in hopes of helping male authors avoid them in the future. Of course, none of this is to say that some female authors don't have similar issues with writing male characters. They too can suffer from the lack of firsthand experience, but as a woman who's read my fair share of poorly rendered female characters written by men, I feel more qualified to comment on this particular issue. So without further ado, 5 common mistakes. Okay, so mistake number 1, substituting appearance for personality. Many male writers have historically used personality and appearance interchangeably. I could see that actually happening quite a bit. At least when it comes to their female characters, the writer who makes this mistake will often lead off with a detailed description of the woman in question, then go on to develop her personality very little or not at all over the course of the story, except in terms of her relationship to men. So this is something that I would imagine is pretty typical because of just a certain perspective that I would think some people probably bring because you probably look at a character of the opposite sex. you probably look at in a certain kind of way, maybe from a physical attractiveness standpoint. And so you create characters that are likable to you, that are interesting to you. And I would imagine that I don't know if it works that way for women as much as it does for men. Men maybe arguably are a little bit more visually inclined. So again, many a male writer has committed this particular sin of characterization, but perhaps none more notoriously than Charles Bukowski. Here are the opening lines to his story, The Most Beautiful Woman in Town. Cass was the youngest and most beautiful of 5 sisters. Cass was the most beautiful girl in town. So obviously, she's very beautiful to the author. Half Indian with a supple and strange body, a snake-like and fiery body with eyes to go with it, Cass was fluid and moving fire. She was like a spirit struck into a form that would not hold her. This gets kind of interesting here. Her hair was black and long and silken and moved and whirled about as did her body. So this is kind of interesting here where you get into situations where you get caught up in, instead of allowing, I would imagine, the reader to use their imagination a little bit more, you kind of set the imagination perhaps for the reader as opposed to letting them kind of discover it on their own. So here is point number 2 of mistakes that men make when writing female characters: overemphasizing certain physical aspects. Male authors describing female characters. This is perhaps the biggest way things can go wrong when it comes to men writing women. Another major mistake male authors make is overemphasizing certain physical aspects of female characters. The main features I'm talking about here are those that society thinks of as distinctly feminine: hair, hips, and breasts. A lot of male authors seem to think that if they don't emphasize these things, that readers will forget that the character in question is female. Speaking as a woman, allow me to assure you that we will not. In fact, we'd be more comfortable having never read descriptions like these again. So that one kind of speaks for itself. Okay, number 3, using female characters primarily to support male characters. So again, this one probably pretty self-explanatory. This mistake can come in many forms, from the well-intentioned but ultimately detrimental manic pixie dream girl trope, in which the quirky female character helps the male character find himself, to women flat out being used as props, or worse yet, breeders. One of the most disappointing instances of this is Petra Arkanian, one of the most interesting characters in Ender's Game, one of the best sci-fi books of all time, if you haven't read it, or if you haven't heard of it, I should say. Yet, as the series progresses, we see Petra's primary role become that of a mother rather than the fearless, independent warrior she was in the first book. Not that there's anything wrong with being a mother, but for Petra specifically, it's incongruous and a complete departure from her previous motivations and personality. Now, sometimes characters can develop over the course of a story, but sometimes they develop in a way that can be uncomfortable, unpleasant, and maybe overly stereotypical. So I could see where maybe that one's going right there. Okay, so number 4, depicting friendships between women as shallow and catty. You see that so many times in probably not just books, but also in television shows and in the movies. That's a pretty typical thing that we would see. So that's not a big surprise. Number 5, not getting a female beta reader. While this tip isn't technically about characterization itself, getting a female beta reader in the editing process is one of the easiest ways to save yourself from making critical character mistakes like these. A female beta reader has that inherent lived experience I talked about before, that kind that male authors simply don't. So anyway, 5 tips for men to avoid making mistakes in writing female characters. So that was an article that I came across that I thought was kind of interesting, and I was intrigued by that because, again, as I think about my writing, many of my main characters, I would think probably 70% of my main characters in all the stories that I've written, the books that I've written, have been female characters. So I'm not really sure why, but that's just always been the case for me. So I thought that was an interesting little bit to explore right there. And I'll talk a little bit more about that over the course of being on here tonight. So I am going to get ready for the first productivity sprint of the evening. And I'm going to go for about 20 minutes. So, those of you who are hanging along, you can check out some things that you're working on, whether it's editing, whether it's writing, whether it's reading, whether it's doing some projects around the house, whether it's napping with an alarm set for 20 minutes, whatever you want to do, it's all good. And I'm going to hold on, let me get the clock up on here right now. Boom. So let me do that. Um, so 20 minutes here on the clock. And if you guys have any questions or comments, just go ahead and drop them in the comment section and I will get to them as soon as I can. But for now, let's just go ahead and get some productivity sprinting in starting now. Okay, so I just finished this sprint with 476 words, so pretty productive there for me. And I am now comfortably over 70,000 words plus for this particular book. And I'm figuring it's going to take me probably 85 to 90,000 words. I'll probably be pushing close to 90,000 words to finish it. I'm almost at the end of Act Two, and which is the biggest chunk of the story. And then Act Three should go, again, as I said earlier, should go pretty quick. So I'm pretty excited about wrapping that up, because again, Act Three not only is going to go quick, but it should be a fun section of the book to get to, because there's a lot of things that happen that bring, if I did it right, hopefully a satisfying conclusion to book one of the series, and does a good job of setting up book two without being annoying. And so I'm hoping that's what I'm shooting for. I've never really done a book series setting out for it to be a series right off the rip. So we'll see how this works, but I'm going to try to make it so that the first book ends and there's a degree of satisfaction, while at the same time setting the stage for book two. So that's again what I am working on today, and I hope you guys are having some good progress here. Nazy, welcome. She says joined at 19 minutes, got a little writing in. Good. Sounds like you're back on it, doing some writing, which is a good thing to get back on and get going with that, and just a little bit at a time. I'm at a good spot, but sometimes it's little chunks of writing here and there that move us closer and closer toward our goals. So good work there, and always appreciate having you here joining me. And this is again a nighttime sprint, and so we'll see how things go with this. I don't know how weather is where everybody else is, but it's a little. I don't know. My house is like really warm, and so my air conditioning has been acting kind of weird. I have central air, and it's just kind of tripping out a little bit. So yeah, so it's been a little bit warmer in here. So hopefully I'm not glistening too much. But it is what it is, and we have to make our adjustments accordingly. So Nazy says, I forgot about tonight's sprint. I just jumped in and it ended up being very productive. So, well, good. Glad you could jump in. And it's interesting. I put this in. I set it up last night, and I was I've been kind of slacking a little bit on the channel. I still haven't done my July reading wrap up yet, and I haven't done my TBR yet. So I need to do that. It's been kind of an interesting time, So I've had a lot of stuff going on, some good, some bad, and so that's commanded a little bit more of my attention lately. And so there's some things that have to give. Plus, I really want to focus in on writing this book. So I've sacrificed a little bit in terms of some of the stand-up videos that I do in the room over here that you can't see, where I do the stand-up videos with the stacks of books. And so, so that's been something that's had to give. I probably will still, maybe I'll do the wrap up in TBR. Maybe I'll do it in one video, because I think my reading this month was not very good. I think I finished with maybe 4 books read. So I usually try to average 6 per month, but I am so far ahead of my Goodreads goal. Matter of fact, let me look at that right now. See where your boy is at here. Let's see. Goodreads. Pull up Goodreads. See how I'm doing with my Goodreads goal here. I've been people probably who follow me on Goodreads are probably like, man, what, are you okay here? You haven't been updating as much lately. So I definitely need to get back on my reading. So, but man, my computer is running kind of terribly right now. So, or Goodreads is tripping out. I don't know. Goodreads is acting up right now. Maybe. Let me see. Okay, here we go. All right. So, according to Goodreads, I am at 44. Oh man, that's the last book I finished, The Escape Room by Megan Golden. Wow, I am really slacking here. So I'm at 44 books read in 2021. I pledged 55, and Goodreads is telling me right now that I am 10 books ahead of schedule. So, oh, I'm sorry. I just stumbled across a book that looks good here in recommendations. So Goodreads profiling of me is apparently paying off because they just served me a book that sounded kind of interesting. So profiling does kind of work here in on the internet. So let's see. I'm all over the place with my reading this month. Surprised to see that I've only read one book this month. DNF'd another book. Started a new book last night. I also started a new book last night. You know what? I forgot to put that on Goodreads. Um, let's see if I can find it. It's A Good Neighborhood by Therese Ann Fowler. I started that as an audiobook. And actually, I'm enjoying it. I do have a physical copy of the book, but it popped up on Scribd. And I jumped into it, and it was pretty good. I was actually really enjoying it. I was getting into it, and sometimes audiobooks sink in for me, and then sometimes they don't. But this one, I was getting a good vibe with this one right off the start. So, um, so I was definitely happy to jump into that one. So I got a lot of progress done. I listened to books on Scribd. I listened to them at 1.8 speed. So that's pretty fast, and sometimes that makes it difficult for things to sink in. But in this case, I was pretty effective with getting not only being able to listen, but having it all soak in as well. So it wasn't all for naught. So that was definitely a positive thing. All right. I'm going to go ahead and get started with productivity sprint number 2 here. So let me go ahead and get that going here. Let me pull the clock on up into the stream. So I'm going to go for another 20 minutes, and then I'll come back and let me get back into the male authors writing female characters, because that is the topic for tonight. And I touched on it a little bit at the beginning of the show, and I'm going to bring that back up because I still have a couple of interesting examples of male authors, shall we say, poorly handling writing female characters here. Let me see one more comment here. I can't recommend The Personal Librarian. It had a promising premise, but I did not like the writing at all. Personal Librarian. Let me look that up real quick before we jump into the Personal by Marie Benedict. Let's see. Okay, the cover is giving me kind of a historical fiction. Oh yeah, I see you gave it a you gave it 1-star DNF. Yeah, you were let's see. Okay, let me Nazy and I are connected via Goodreads. So let me see here. Let's see. Okay, in her 20s, Bella is hired by to curate a collection of rare manuscripts, books, and artwork for his newly built. Oh yeah, I think I remember this. I think I remember. Maybe you might have mentioned this to me. Oh yeah, I can see why. Yeah, I would have. Yeah, this would have definitely grabbed my attention too. I can see where it would have been tempting to look at it. Yeah, yeah, I would have probably given it a try too. But you're saying it just writing wasn't up to snuff here. Let's see, 341 pages. Oh, that just came out too. Wow, it was June 29th. Uh, it's got some rough reviews. A few good ones too. I've seen a few 2 stars. Okay. Okay. Yeah, I mean it yeah, the premise sounds very interesting. Yeah, I would have definitely have been intrigued enough to give it a look. So you say very flat, no depth to the characters to yeah. Yeah, that's one of those things that if you're reading a book with an interesting premise and then you start to with an interesting premise and then you start to read it and the character is not progressing, is not developing, is you're not seeing the depth of the character, then at some point it's like you get tired. Like, isn't there more to this character? Because you start thinking of yourself and your growth over, obviously over the course of your life, but even over the course of certain situations, whether adverse or non-adverse, that have a role in shaping who you are as a person. And typically you would grow or change in some kind of way based on those experiences. And so when you don't see that development, it can be such a disappointment. Too much telling and not showing. Yeah, that's it's funny when I do edits for my stories. That is a specific edit that I do to check for telling and not showing. Because when you're like first draft stuff for me, sometimes will be filled with a lot of telling, and so that's interesting that it is like that. From presumably, I didn't see the publisher, presumably a mainstream publisher, Berkeley Books. Um, that's disappointing because that does. Yeah, I was actually now that you mention it, I remember that coming up before, and it did sound like a very promising premise. Try saying that 3 times fast. So yeah, that is disappointing, but I do appreciate the heads up though, because now I'll have to really think about whether I want to jump into that one at this point. So okay, back to productivity sprint number 2. Let me get the clock up on the screen. So we'll go for about 20 minutes, and I'll come back and we'll dive back into male authors and female characters. Should be kind of interesting. So uh, stay tuned for another 20 minutes. Get some work done, and then we'll rejoin and talk about male authors writing female characters. All right, here we go. Okay, so okay. I wrote 491 words during sprint number 2. So that was definitely a positive there. And that puts me at in a pretty good spot here. So 491 words there. And then what did I have? 476. So um, I'm in good shape here, pushing up on 1,000 words total so far. I usually like to get in, around 14, 1,500 if at all possible. So we'll see if I'm on the road to that. All right, let me find this article that I wanted to pull up. Um, so I was talking about male authors writing female characters, and some of the stuff is just like literally just crazy. All right, so I found this article by Farrah Penn on BuzzFeed. Let me grab this and throw this in the chat here real quick. Nazy says another productive sprint. So great work there. Okay, let me put this article that I'll be referencing in the chat real quick. Okay, so let me see if I can make this a little bigger. All right. All right, here, let me add this to the screen. Okay, so actually, let me get that thing off there too. All right, so the article says, I'm so sorry, but here's how some male authors for Really Real described women in books. Sounds fake, but okay. All right. So number one, I won't necessarily go through all of these, but you can see quite a few comments on here already. So 250. Actually, let me see how old this article is. Let me see if it says. Okay, this is a 2019 article. So number one, you know what this sentence needs? Emotion, specifically breast emotion. So it says she was about to cover her startled breasts. I don't know how they can be startled. That's actually yeah, that just doesn't even make sense. Like, yeah, I totally get why that example is in there, but that is an odd way of saying that. That is a that is logic challenging right there. That is, or should I say, logic resistance right there. So, and number two, of course, breasts ripple because duh, physics. Her large breasts rippled in appreciation. Hmm.
Michael Jordan. Stop it. Get some help.
So let's see. That was odd right there. Okay, let's see. Number three, what simile would make sense for butt cheeks? Wait, I've got it. Her butt dipping and spinning, two big round muscles like rumps mountain. Wow, wow. That is I don't even have any words for that one. Let's see. I have taken 0 anatomy classes, but don't worry, I know how this works. But she was for the bathroom door didn't altogether close due to the old frame of the house settling over the centuries, and she had to sit on the toilet some minutes waiting for the pee to come. What? Men, they were able to conjure it up immediately. That was one of their powers. And oh, this doesn't make, what the heck is going on here? Yeah, I agree. What the hell? What unique way to describe goosebumps? Wow. Wow. Anyway, so you get the point. So this is like some of the insanity that you see from some of these articles. It's like it's just amazing, um, and it shows sometimes that um, maybe some stories and characters are written for the wrong reasons, and when you don't have adequate checks and balances in what you're doing, um, yeah, yeah, it's it's amazing. Yeah, it's just it's crazy. Like I think the author of the article did not necessarily want to totally out people, but it's like this is like crazy. If you go and you follow some of these and you're like you think that somebody had to write it and then somebody had to edit it and then somebody had to green light it to publish it, and now it's possible if they're self-published. I get the impression that they're probably not, but it's possible if they're self-published, then I guess that could all be one person that could greenlight all of that. But you would hate to think so. Um, yeah, some of these. I'm just going through a few more of these. Let's see. Some of these are just. Some of these are crazy. I should probably be careful showing some of these on YouTube. But yeah, it's just some of these. Wow. Yeah. So I really brought up this topic mainly because, as I mentioned earlier, a lot of my lead characters in many cases, I would say probably like I said earlier, maybe 70%, 65 to 70% have been female characters, and I try to not get all crazy like that. One of the reasons also for me that makes it easier is that I try not to I try to show rather than tell, and just to put it there for the sake of putting it there, that kind of stuff. Kind of what and AZ, kind of what you were talking about earlier with the one book that was showing or telling more than it was showing. And I think that's what you see in a lot of these examples that are here on this particular website. And so I think those are something that, I know I work to try to avoid. And I think everybody really should work to try to avoid in their writing. So, yeah, because otherwise it just, that's really probably a symptom of other problems that probably exist in other parts of the writing that could be problematic. So yeah, it was interesting article to read for sure. So yeah, again, 15 times male authors took a whack at describing um, women in books. So yeah, just a really interesting. It's a really interesting subject matter. But yeah, so anyway, the article's there for you guys to check it out. And those who are guys out there who are watching right now or will be watching at some point once it's posted to the YouTube channel, these are things that you could definitely check out, and it can help you with your writing. And maybe you'll never read the same way again because you'll be looking for these types of things that will make it sound very much male. So I'm going to look though, because I'm guessing that there are topics out there. Let me actually try it. Um, women, let's see, women authors writing male characters. see. I found an interesting list. 8 books about male protagonists by female authors. One is The Talented Mr. Ripley by Patricia Highsmith. I've actually heard of that, never read it. Next, The Witch Elm by Tana Rich, or Tana Rich, French, I should say. Never heard of that one. You and Hidden Bodies by Caroline Kepnes. I've heard of the author, but not that book. An American Marriage by T.R.E. Jones. I actually have read that. It's a very, very good book, and it is a male lead character. She does a pretty good job with it. It's a very difficult, challenging subject matter in that particular book, An American Marriage. That is a heavy, heavy read. In a Lonely Place by Dorothy B. Hughes. Never heard of that one. Song of Solomon by Toni Morrison. I've heard of that. Never read it. Fleischman is in Trouble by Taffy Brodesser Ackner. Not heard of that one. But so it's funny when you go into Google and people who ask, um, one of the top questions is, can female authors write male characters? And the answer from Quora is yes, of course. Female authors can write good male characters. Um, here's another question. What common mistakes? Hang on a second. Let's see. All right, hang on a second. Let me throw this up here. What common mistakes do female authors make while writing male characters? Um, Writing male characters is overly masculine. When we write characters, we often want them to be idealized versions of humanity. That's what I was working for. Very much better articulately stated right here. Although I was talking about it from male writing female. Um, but yeah, that's a very good way of putting it. When we write characters, we often want them to be idealized versions of humanity. So fantasies is what they become. And that makes them sometimes become fantastical. So, good way of saying that. Lack of internal conflict. Male characters that women writers write are often tools for physical conflict. And then number 3, lack of backstory. So, anyway, that'll maybe balance out the discussion here a little bit. Um, So, anyway, very interesting topic that I could probably go on and on and on about, but just wanted to kind of dip the old toe into that a little bit and check that out a little bit. So, let me go ahead and get ready for the third and final sprint of the day, night, whatever we are right now. Here is about 9:36 p.m. Eastern time, and been on here about an hour and 23 minutes. So we're going to be up on a pretty close to 2 hours here before I wrap this bad boy up. But let me go ahead and get the clock back up. And I'm going to go ahead and hit start, and I'll be back here. Hold on a second. Productivity sprint number 3. So I'll be back here in about 20 minutes. So here we go. Okay, so final sprint for the evening, I finished with 273 words written. So didn't quite get to my typical goal of 1,500 words written over the course of 3 sprints. But you take it as it comes, and I ended up getting a little sidetracked with some other items that I was taking care of. So that left me with maybe not quite as much time to work on the actual story, but it's okay because I got a lot of work on it done earlier today, this morning, and this afternoon. So that ended up being a definite positive for me. So I hope everyone else had a positive series of sprints here tonight. And, it was decided to do this last night because I've been slacking a little bit on the channel because of a lot of things going on. So I decided to jump in here and get some stuff going. So, so I appreciate everybody that came through, and I hope everybody had a good and productive time. And those of you who will watch this later, hopefully there'll be some nuggets that you can take away from it, or you can productivity sprint while watching the replay of it, and hopefully get some things done that pushes you a little bit closer toward reaching your goals. And with that, I want to get ready to start to close this thing out. Let me see here. I got distracted once I hit a difficult spot, but was still productive. So, yeah, I'm hoping that, knock on wood here in front of me, that I've made it through some of my difficult spots in the story, so that I'll be able to really lock in and finish up this last. Like I said, probably where am I at right now? I'm at about 72,000 words. And I'm figuring it's going to take me 85 to 90,000 to close out the story through the end of second act and through the third act, which should go really fast. So I'm looking forward to that as well. Margaret, thank you for coming by here toward the tail end, but glad to see you able to pop in here. And looks like you were doing some filming. Okay, so I need to get to some filming. As I mentioned earlier, I need to I've just had so much stuff going on, some good and then some bad stuff that has just kind of had my attention a little bit. So writing, I think, could end up being a positive thing for me to work through some of those challenges that we all face. So we'll see with that. Still querying for the novel that I've been querying for the last couple of months. So still hitting the pavement pretty hard on that. Maybe tweaking some things in my querying package to make sure that that is on point. So I'm going to continue to work on that. Margaret says reading about Copper Country and Calumet. Yeah, actually, I'll be up there unless COVID screws with us here, and the Delta the Delta variant comes and puts the smackdown on all of us. I should be up there. Gosh, when do we go up there? Hold on a second. Let me see. I'm trying to see if we go up there during. There's a couple times of the year you can go up there, and it's like if you go up there in the fall where the colors are just turning, it is just spectacular. The beauty that you'll see heading up through the Upper Peninsula. So let me see here. Let me pull up the schedule. And we go in late October, so we should still get some colors. So hopefully we'll still get some colors as we head up through the Upper Peninsula. It is really a beautiful area. I've been through there when it's like blazing hot and It's nice, and I've been through there with the fall colors, and it's just quite beautiful. And I've been up through there in blizzards, sideways, blowing snow, heavy drifting snow, and you're white knuckle driving through um, a lot of woods and 2 lane roads, and nothing but you and the animals. So yeah, I've been through that, but it is a beautiful area to visit. So a couple of really, probably more than a couple, but some really beautiful cities up in the Upper Peninsula. So yeah, you have to let me know how that goes. Maybe let me know what the actual book is. I'd be kind of curious to, or whatever you're reading, and maybe you're doing some research or something. Um, I hope you make it. Yeah. Well, I mean, I hope all of us make it. Because things are getting crazy right now. Like a lot of people, were back to wearing masks at work. So I think a lot of us thought, um, hoped that we were past that, but of course, um, some of us are less inclined to do what's necessary to help us work through this. So I'm hoping that we don't have any things canceled, but I am not overly optimistic about that. Let's see. Margaret says, "Oh, interesting, Nazy. Personal librarian was a bit restrained for me." I said at you chat. Yeah, yeah, we talked about that. It's interesting. It came up. I feel like it came up in a live stream before, and we talked about it. And I was thinking about putting that on my list, and I never did get around to it. The Women of Copper Country by Maria Doris Russell. Oh, well, since we are here, let me go ahead and pull that up and give Jeff Bezos a little bit more money here. Let's see. Oh, there. Ooh, it popped up pretty quick there, huh? All right, let's see what we got here. 2019 release. Okay. So a historic fiction. So you are definitely on message right there with that one. So let's see. Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah, I could see that. Yeah. That is definitely copper country. You drive through there, you can definitely tell, especially if you get up around that Houghton area of Michigan, Houghton, Calumet area. You can definitely still see the remnants of mining towns there. Um, well, it sounds interesting. I'll be curious to get your review of that one. So let's see. Let's see. I'll have to go back and listen. Let's see. No space. Space Boy. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. Goodness gracious. I mean, that's literally money to burn. I mean, literally and figuratively. So yeah, I mean, man, I wish he could break me off like a million and would never miss it. So Jeff, if you're out there, why don't you break your boy off like a million? Actually, I don't even need a million. I'll take 100. I'll take 100K. That'll help me immensely. Believe me, right there. So yeah, wow, Space Boy. That was a good laugh right there. Well played, Margaret. Well played. But you know what? I'm actually very kind of intrigued by that book though. How long is it? Let's see, 353 words. Published in 2019. Mary Doria Russell. I'm wondering if she's from. Okay, so she does have a Michigan background. biological anthropology from the University of Michigan. Margaret, have you read any other books by her? Huh. Looking at her background, I'm just intrigued as to how she came up with that topic. That's quite an interesting topic. I'd settle for some Kit Kat bar. Oh my gosh, the days when I could have Kit Kat. I don't know if I could have a Kit Kat. That'd be like a whole meal for me. My doctor would freak out if I ate a Kit Kat. Oh, this is my first one by her, but she's a big name. Yeah, yeah. I was just looking at her bio, um, and really intriguing. Very, very intriguing. I mean, she's looks pretty scholarly even with some of her achievements there. So yeah, she's a pretty impressive author here. I have to take a look at that. I'm actually kind of intrigued by that. Um, oh, is it just it's just a Kindle book? It's not a physical book. Looks like. Let's see. See all formats and editions. Oh no, it is okay. Okay. It does have hardcover and paperback. Okay. So I was that was my lack of thoroughness in terms of not seeing that. So uh, I think there has been some downstate flooding. Not so much in our area as much where I'm at right now, but downstate where I'm originally from, they've had some. I think I showed you some pictures and or maybe a story or something like that of some flooding. So I think things are subsiding a little bit. So I think the crazy thing is we've had like drought, then we've had flooding, then we've had drought, then we've had flooding. I don't know if we're getting ready to go back into drought, but temperature's been pretty mild. So we'll see what happens though. We've had some severe thunderstorms and some power outages. And knock on wood, I did not lose my power, but I know some people that did lose power for like 3 4 days, and some of them are hopefully getting their power back tomorrow. I think that's the date that um, Consumers Energy gave for some people. So so I don't know. It's like a series of plagues that have been running through the country here. We've had wildfires all over the place, heat, drought, flooding. Um, it's getting to be kind of biblical here with some of the stuff that's going on. So, um, might as well live in Cali. Yeah, actually, never been to California. Never been to California before. Who knows? Maybe one of these days, I'll make it out there to California at least once to check that one off the old bucket list there at some point. So let's see. The heat's been crazy here in Pennsylvania. So yeah, it's in the upper Midwest, the people just I think a lot of people that aren't from the Midwest, I don't think they realize how extreme the weather can get. I mean, you can go from just blazing hot in July and August, and by November, December, it's like you're cold. So yeah, it's fall is an interesting season in Michigan, probably in Pennsylvania as well. Early fall is like shorts and t-shirt weather, and then late fall is like you know hooded sweatshirt, sweats, and maybe a scarf too, or one of those knitted caps to keep your head warm. Sorry everyone about the smoke from our fires. That is coming. If not already here, that's a good point. I didn't think about that. Um, we should do a house swap. Yeah, yeah, maybe, yeah. We could just we could just meet somewhere and then just kind of cross paths and shake hands, or fist bump or something like that, and then exchange houses. So and then see how that goes. But yeah, it's been crazy. This has been a lot of crazy stuff going on weather-wise, all over the country, and probably all over the world. Just to see all the crazy stuff that's going on. So yeah, it's been something else. Maybe inspiring. Hopefully, some authors out there are getting inspired to write some cool stuff about things that are going on. I'm sure there's probably a flood of pandemic type books that have come out. And I think I talked about that in a video over a year ago, maybe around a year ago, that we probably see a whole bunch of pandemic books coming out right now, and that literary agents and publishers would be flooded by stories of pandemic this and that. So we'll see if that ends up coming to fruition. So sometimes out of certain situations, inspiration will come. So, all right. Well, we're at 2 hours exactly. So I'm going to go ahead and close it out. Thanks to everybody who came through, and hope everybody has a good evening and a good rest of your weekend. So take care, and I will see you soon.